Welcome back to the I Just Did a Thing series. My name is Penny, and I am taking you on that journey once again to share with you the creative approach to pivoting and designing revolutionary changes in your life and your business. I'm actually reading each one of my chapters with you from the I Just Did a Thing book that I've written, and we are now jumping into the next chapter where I'm giving you real world experiences and how this works. It's one thing for me to share with you all of that really cool science stuff, which I did in the first two chapters, but now I would like to show you how this actually works for like real live people. So let's jump right into this with chapter 3, A Tale of Two Pivots. If you want to change your life, you must be available for the ridiculous, then your reality. Jen Cicero said that. And that's where we're going to start here. So let me introduce you to two people that I want to talk to you about. Let's talk about Annie and Carol. These are two women who found themselves experiencing a pivot in their lives, and they both decided to move through the changes by opening themselves up to their own creative energy. Let's start with Annie first. So Annie worked in the marketing department of a large company in Charlotte, North Carolina. For about a decade, she served as the marketing coordinator for their clients, and over the years, with several promotions, she obtained the position of the director of strategic projects. Annie loved working with her company's clients and watching their businesses grow from the marketing projects that she managed. Everything was wonderful, just wonderful, until COVID hit. Yeah, I think we've all experienced that moment when COVID hit. I know I did personally. And when they were sent home to work virtually, Annie became an expert at Zoom calls. 2 months into the pandemic, her company cut her hours. By month number 4, everyone in Annie's marketing department was let go without any indication if the job suspension was temporary or permanent. Annie was devastated. Still, the severance package was more than enough to keep her afloat for at least 6 months. She also had money in her savings and her 401k, so she didn't feel any immediate financial stress. But she knew that her money would only take her just so far, maybe through the holidays, so she needed to find another source of income. And she started the work of finding a new job. But it was COVID. And things were going on with COVID, we all very well know. And no one was hiring. And depression became a part of her daily routine. Some days it was hard to get out of bed and face another day full of rejection. It was exhausting. But every day she forced herself to find the time to sit at her computer and look for opportunities. One day while she was connecting with some old clients on LinkedIn, she got an offer to work on a small marketing project. It was less than half the hourly rate of her former position, but it was work. And you know what? It felt good to have a purpose again. That small job led to 3 more offers from 3 other former clients. Annie realized that she could offer her skills as a marketing consultant to these other small businesses. She had spent enough time working on marketing strategy and knew what she needed to do to start getting more marketing clients. She had to do something that would help her stand out to get their attention while showing them how creative she could be while she was managing their projects. She had to think about how she was going to stand out. I know we've all been through that situation too, where there's us and thousands of other people out there looking for the same thing. So Annie was sitting there trying to figure out, what can I do to make people understand what a unique and wonderful experience it would be to work with me. Annie had spent enough time working on marketing strategy and knew what she needed to do to start getting more marketing clients. She had to do something that would stand out and get their attention while showing them how creative she could be. So she came up with an idea to send her past clients a monthly package with some really cool office supplies or like a business book or something like that. Something to get their attention. In each one of her packages, she added a postcard with a quote or a beautiful image that the client could hang on their office. And on the back of the postcard, she included her latest marketing package and her contact information in case they were ready to bring her on to help them with some marketing plans. Even with her extensive marketing background, Annie had actually never considered herself to be a graphic designer, but she wanted her potential clients to be impressed with what they received. She understood the basics, but hadn't really ever done any designing herself. She found an online graphic printing company that gave her several templates, and she could use to create these marketing package postcards. And then when she hit that publish button, the company would print the postcards and just mail them to her. It was this easy process, but what really grabbed her attention was how much fun it was to design these postcards. Finding the images made her dream about places to visit. Looking for quotes to use helped her think about how much she was enjoying being her own boss. She really grew to love this design process by adding all these colors and fonts and arranging the images to create these marketing postcards. It was like watching her messages visually come to life. Making the marketing postcards became one of her most favorite things to do in her week. And during these design sessions, Annie actually noticed that her depression would lift. And she looked forward to those times when she would be able to create for the pure sake of just creating. And she found herself being excited again, and then even enjoyed taking her marketing packages to the UPS store to mail them out. So what happened during those hours when Annie focused on designing those postcards? She began the process of retraining her brain to move out of this depression and this anxiety and all of those overwhelming feelings that we all feel around her income and what was she going to do about a job. She took all of that and retrained it into feeling confident that she could be successful as a marketing consultant. So let's talk about Carol. What happened with Carol and her pivot? Well, Carol's life is completely different than Annie's. Carol was actually married to her high school sweetheart, and together they raised 3 kids in the small town of California. Her husband had an amazing job as a managing partner in an investment company, which allowed Carol to stay home with their kids. And one of her favorite things about being a stay-at-home mom meant that she was able to attend all of her kids' activities, from being a baseball mom to her youngest son, to organizing all of those pre-prom, that's hard for me to say, pre-prom parties for both of her daughters and their friends. For the last 28 years of her life, Carol spent her days and many nights taking care of her husband or kids and managing their schedules with the ease of a highly organized event planner. Her days were happily filled, and she felt the daily gratitude from her family, until that fateful fall came, and her youngest son went off to college that was a 5-hour drive away from home. Her other 2 daughters had already started their college journey, and one was even in graduate school to become a teacher. Carol was sad to see her girls leave, but when she dropped her son off at his freshman dorm, a feeling of anxiety came over her on that long drive back home. Carol came home to an empty house. Excuse me. Boy, that gets me because my son just graduated. Sorry. Whew, that gets me. She knew her husband would be home later that night from his job, but that didn't help. That didn't stop the knots moving around inside of her stomach. It was like her motor was running, and every time she thought about all 3 of those kids not being home, her internal engine just revved up. Her thoughts were creating more anxiety, which just upped the intensity of the energy just circling around inside of her. Carol spent the next 2 weeks after dropping off her son desperately trying to soothe her feelings. She went for walks in her small town. She tried to find a program to binge watch on Netflix, but discovered that these were just distractions, and her internal motor just kept on running. By week number 3, she shared her concerns with her husband, and he suggested that she think about this time like early retirement and just find some place to volunteer. It was a great idea, but Carol had never worked a day in her life. She married her husband right after high school, and within the first year of their marriage, she was pregnant with their first daughter. She was 48 years old without any work experience. How was she going to have an early retirement when there was nothing to retire from. A month into her continuing to feel her internal vibrational energy, Carol was in the kitchen baking a birthday cake for one of her neighbors. She had always enjoyed baking, especially during those days when she volunteered to run the bake sales to raise money for the baseball team. With her hands deep in flour and all of her ingredients spread out on the kitchen island, a thought hit her. I wonder, how much flour and ingredients would it take to make 20 small little cakes? She quickly did the math in her head and looked around the pantry to see if she'd had enough of all the ingredients. Indeed, she did. After completing her neighbor's birthday cake, Carol got out the supplies and needed to make those 20 small little 2-layer rectangular cakes with buttercream frosting. She wasn't sure why she needed to make 20 little cakes, but she noticed that for the first time in a month, that consistent feeling of that energy in her stomach, that buzzing, that energy, that flip-flopping, it was decreasing. So she kept on baking. And after she put all the cakes into the oven to bake, a thought came to her about a small art boutique that she had seen on one of her many walks into town. The shop featured art from locals as well as other products like handmade soap and honey from people in her community, and Carol decided she would take her cakes down to the shop and see if she could sell them. She wrapped up the cakes in clear cellophane, tied a big red and white checkered ribbon on each one of them, and put them into a big basket. Carol walked into that store with an idea and a basket full of cakes. And walked out as the newest vendor in the art boutique. Over the next few weeks, the anxious feeling in Carol's body went from a low-grade level to non-existent. And when her kids came home from college for the holidays, Carol was busy filling orders for the store and for special orders for a wedding and a 50th birthday party. She was thrilled to see them come home, but when they went back to their lives, Carol was no longer filled with anxiety or sadness. She'd found her happiness in making her cakes, and she used her creative energy to override those bad feelings and found her next big adventure in her life as a baker. So let's talk about this. Postcards and cakes. This is a really important piece right here. And you know sharing those stories helps us to understand better how this whole idea of tapping into your creativity and allowing you to move past where you're getting stuck by doing all of these creative things. So what does this have to do with everything else that I was talking about? It has to do with postcards and cakes. Because one of the greatest things that you have to help you through your big change is your imagination. With your imagination, you're not relying on your physical environment or someone else to do something for you. Spending time in your daydreams will give you everything that your heart and mind desire from your life. And a big part of this process here, the process that I refer to as the creative insight process, for you to make a pivot is to use your imagination. I want you to push yourself out of your comfort box. Because when you spend time living in your daydreams and not within your current reality, you're actually able to play out all the possibilities that your mind can come up with. That you can come up with ideas to make postcards that will help you get new marketing clients. That you can come up with ideas to make cakes and sell them to a store in your town. Spending time in your daydream will give you everything that your heart and mind desires for your life. So I want you to start thinking big. I want you to give yourself the opportunity to play out all of these possibilities that your mind can come up with. And I want you to allow the ideas that come to you to be up for consideration before you quickly throw them away because you don't have the time, the education, the skills, the money, whatever it is, fill in the blank that you're going to use as your excuse. Whatever you think that you use as an excuse that you know aren't going to make these dreams come true. Because here's the thing that's so important, folks. When that big idea comes up in this process, and it will, Trust me, when you spend time in your creative energy, the ideas are going to just be flowing to you. And when that big idea comes to you in this process, and it feels so huge and so far out of your reach, that, my friends, that is exactly the point when you need to really, really believe in its possibility to turn your dream into a reality. Thank you so much today for joining me on this creative journey. You are magnificent, my friends. You have big ideas, and I know that you are going to see them, and I know that you're going to feel them, and I know that you really are going to believe that it's a possibility to turn these dreams into a reality. So let me be the first to say, I'm proud of you. Until next time, thank you.